for joining us today on City Talk. I'm Maria Sorreo. We are here today at the PV Golf Club for the Chamber of Commerce's Legislative Forum. Now, you're going to hear from many local leaders, but first up, let's hear from the President and CEO of the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Miss Eileen Hupp.
The Chamber is so excited to once again have a sold-out crowd for our annual Legislative Forum. It is so important for our businesses and the community to speak directly to our legislators and express concerns, issues, suggestions, ideas. This dialogue and conversation is very, very important. So we're really honored to have legislators here from many levels of government, including great representation from our local cities, our school board, our library district, and even some of the candidates running for local election. I've been at the Chamber for 13 years. I know we've been doing it for 13 years. Beyond that, I'm sure prior to that as well. It's really only through conversation and dialogue and asking questions and hearing people's rationale and logic and reasoning for why they do things the way they do that we can come to a better understanding. That is the foundation of democracy. It's dialogue and respectful conversation. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree, but that's okay. If you're not talking, we can't move forward together. And so as the connector in the community, because that's what the Chamber does, we are very pleased and honored to be able to connect our businesses and our community directly with our legislators. In spite of all the new platforms we have for communication over the last 10 or 20 years, sometimes communication has actually become more challenging. So in my mind, there is nothing that ever replaces face-to-face conversation, looking somebody in the eye, shaking their hand, and having that dialogue.
Clearly, these type of events are critical because businesses and our elected officials need to always be working together. We know in Rancho Palos Verdes how important business is. 20% of our revenues come from just one business, Terranea Resort. But there's many other businesses in and around the peninsula that we want to be seeing thriving and doing really great, regardless of what type of tax revenue. We want to see them do well for their families and for the community and creating jobs and all that. So it's great to have the elected officials here and giving us an update of what they're doing, and also get an opportunity to talk to some of our businesses and hear their concerns and be able to take that back when they're making critical decisions. If our county, state, and federal officials aren't talking to the cities, then honestly, I don't think they're representing us. So I believe all of them will be here today. They'll get a chance to sit. We're having a reception right now that I'll be joining, but also they'll be sitting at our tables. We'll be giving them the latest concerns. Obviously, there's 4 cities on the Palos Verdes Peninsula, and all 4 have unique issues, but in the same sense, we all kind of have the same issues. So it's good for them to hear from us during their downtime before they head back in and start creating more laws that affect all of us.
Well, I think it's important that we have our electeds come together and speak with the community and hear what's going on. There's so much that's going on at every level of government, and sometimes it's hard to connect and correlate what is happening up in Sacramento at the federal level and how it affects locally. And so these types of events actually give us an opportunity to ask the right questions, to understand what is happening, what laws are being considered that affect us locally. And there are a lot of local issues that we're very concerned with. With the Chamber hosting this event, and they do it every year in October, it's always a huge success, and there's so many stakeholders that come out, and this is not only from a networking perspective where you can connect with people in a very different setting, but it also, again, brings us all together to talk about these issues.
The most important part for these types of events is the relationship building and keeping those relationships, making sure that everybody comes together to talk about their issues. If they have issues, figure out what resources they have, and just maintaining those things, because those relationships in government are the key blocks to solving problems that we have, especially for us. So seeing our supervisors, seeing our congressional office, seeing our assembly office, as well as the Senate office, talking to them, making sure everybody's on the same page, especially with the landslide and problems that we have. So these types of events are really good to get a face-to-face, especially, in the hectic, busy schedules that we have. and it's nice to have people grease the wheels and talk to them and shake their hands and say, hey, this is what we need for our constituents. It's very important. I think the chamber is doing a great job putting this event on. And I hopefully they keep doing it so that all of us can get together, the businesses, the cities, and the local elected officials, as well as our federal government and the state government, to come together just to talk and hash out any issues that we might have. Yeah.
What kind of questions do businesses ask?
I think for more is what's coming down the pipeline. How are you going to, for us in RPV, it's Western. How are we going to revitalize that? Are you going to give incentives to come? Or what are you going to do for the businesses? I think those are important conversations to have, especially for our tax revenues and the basis for us to ensure that we have revenue actually coming into the city, and also for business to make sure that it's an environment where they can thrive.
So these are just an opportunity for all the electeds for the local area to get together, whether it's at city level, a state assembly, state senate, or even at the national level, and really hear the issues and have a discussion about how we can help do the people's business. It's amazing because it gives the community a single place to be able to yell at all your electeds, hear the discussion, hear the discourse, and really help come to solutions for the community's problems. Getting all of the elected schedules to link up where we can all come together at the same time is almost impossible. So we love it when the chamber leans forward and helps try to schedule these where we can all clear our calendars and all be available at the same time. It really is helpful for the community.
First of all, it happens every year. It's such a beautiful place. I always look forward to it. Look, I represent a massive district, 1 million people in the district. I think 19 different cities. I mean, it goes all the way from Studio City to Agoura Hills, all the way down here to the Hill and on to Catalina. So it's hard to it's hard to kind of be in touch with everyone all the time. And this is a great chance for me to be here on the Hill, run into everybody, see everybody. I'm already I couldn't make it even into the building because I'm in so many conversations. And it's a great way for me to catch up with a lot of people all at once in a short period of time. And so I really appreciate it. I know that, I hope they appreciate getting the chance to hear from us and get updates and, hearing about everything that's going on. But it's a very valuable and meaningful, chance to reconnect with everybody and every time I come, some really good things come out, good conversations. I mean, it's turned into bills, it's turned into to initiatives, budget issues. So it's a wonderful coming together of leadership on the Hill that I benefit a great deal from, and I hope others do too. We're all running around like headless chickens. I've got I'm back and forth to Sacramento, and now I've got 2 little kids. So I'm also coaching soccer and all the rest. So yeah, time is the currency. And but look, I as I say, this is always a very pleasant event. Good lunch and beautiful views, and then of course, most importantly, good conversation, and it's a chance for us all to get together. I mean, just literally, as I've been walking in, we've been talking about the landslide. We've been talking about some economic development issues on the Hill. Obviously, lots of focus on the landslide right now. We're bringing Congressman Schiff next week to the Hill to come see the situation. We're in conversations with the governor's office and Alex Padilla as well, so that we'll be getting hopefully some real attention from some of the highest levels. I mean, obviously looking very likely Congressman Schiff will become the senator. So I'm just really excited that he is going to take some time to come down here, spend some time learning about the challenges here, and hopefully that'll translate into some interest, knowledge, and support at a very high level of the federal government in the coming year that can help provide some relief to folks here.
I want to thank, of course, Eileen, who I just love to bits. Where is she? She's around here somewhere. The nicest person in the world. And then, of course, Colleen and Meg, who chair this event. Thank you for all the work you did to put this together. I always really enjoy this event. It's such a great chance for me to see so many people at once and catch up on all that's happening. And so much is happening. What a wild time in the world. Of course, I've heard about some election happening at the national level that has us all on tenterhooks. But it's certainly a lot happening here in the state of California as well. A complicated economy, certainly some really good numbers, but also some storm clouds. One area that I continue to be really concerned about is the state of Hollywood and TV and film production. Just was at a meeting yesterday in Hollywood on this topic, and that's going to be an area I think we're going to all have to spend some time on. How do how do we ensure that the rich legacy of TV and film production that has been such an important part of making Los Angeles what it is continues in the wake of very aggressive recruitment and incentive programs that have been put in place all over the world, in fact, certainly all over the country. Places including New York very recently doubling the size of their TV film tax credit and making their credit significantly more flexible than ours. I serve on the California Film Commission, and this is an area of real concern for me. Mentioned environmental work. We continue to move on a lot of environmental issues, including SB 867, which so the two of us are the authors of Prop 2 and Prop 4. Al's been doing great work on school construction that you're going to see on your ballot. I was the lead author on Prop 4, which is going to provide a lot of funding for climate resiliency, particularly focused on water, ensuring that we have more resources for safe drinking water. It includes funding for groundwater recharge, for water recycling, a lot of the big projects that I see Scott and others who've been championing those sorts of infrastructural challenges and needs that exist throughout our state. And I'm excited about the prospect of resources, and I'm sure we can get Councilmember Bradley on board. I see him smiling. So that's one area of a lot of work. There's of course been a lot happening in the conversation about public safety and crime. Of course, a big ballot measure that's on the ballot right now, Proposition 36. There's a very robust and fascinating district attorney's race here in Los Angeles County. I mean, this debate, of course, is happening up and down the state. Before I was in Hollywood yesterday, I was in San Francisco in the morning yesterday, where they're having a wild mayor's race that is really hinging, at least largely, on a lot of public safety challenges and questions. The legislature did take action on a number of issues that I think merit mention. Our colleague, Assemblymember Zabur, who represents the West Side, did a bill on retail theft that created a new crime to target serial retail thieves by better enforcing against the possession of stolen property. And it basically expands police authority to arrest and retain in custody people repeatedly engaging in retail theft crime. Senator Skinner had a bill that goes after the online marketplaces. One of the things that we found, one of the things that's very different today than 25 years ago is it's so easy to resell stolen goods because of the internet. It used to be you were kind of walking around in Manhattan with your big bag full of stuff and putting it out and running away. Now you just go online and sell on an online marketplace, and it's become a major source for the laundering and then resale of stolen goods. And it became a very difficult debate, by the way, because the online marketplaces, of course, don't want to take responsibility. But the flip side is we needed to put in place some teeth to ensure that they're not facilitating the sale of stolen goods. And it's all ultimately about greater analysis, greater certification of the activity of high volume sellers, and really giving some enforcement power associated with that. Assemblymember Berman had a bill that allows a court to authorize, to impose a restraining order on behalf of a retail store against someone who's committed theft or vandalism or battery against an employee. That did not exist before. Now that option exists. That will now exist for stores. Assemblymember Irwin had a bill that removes the red tape that now will allow DAs to more easily file charges for a crime that's committed in a particular jurisdiction. There were challenges associated with DAs being able to file suits if a particular criminal had committed crimes in several jurisdictions, in several different counties. And so this now removes red tape associated with that. And then finally, Assemblymember Rivas had a bill that provides sentence enhancements for if a person takes or damages or destroys high-value property while committing or attempting to commit a felony offense. So there's some work happening there. Of course, there's obviously it's looking very likely that the state will pass Prop 36. And so there's certainly a lot happening in that space. One thing I want to just mention, I see some of my school board friends here. As a dad now, I've gotten more interested in this issue. I ended up teaming up with a Republican Assembly member, Assemblymember Hoover, and Al Mersucci was very involved with this effort as well, to basically require our school districts to finally put in place some policies to restrict or prohibit the use of cell phones during school hours on our campuses. I know this is a controversial topic, but the more I've read, the more convinced I've become of how important it is for us to take action on this. We've seen how first of all, we've seen the benefits in study after study in other parts of the country where they've taken pains to restrict usage. A number of private schools in our area have done so, and it's really, you've seen a benefit on so many levels: focus, test scores, but also bullying, self-esteem. The funny thing is, you ask young people if they could choose to get rid of their social media accounts, most of them actually say they would, but they don't want to do it because if everybody else doesn't. And so we're kind of stuck in this loop where we all recognize the damage that it can cause. And of course, these phones are incredible tools. We all use all these tools. They're incredibly valuable. We have a lot of people in the communications world that help make them valuable to all of us. But we also know the impact that it has on our kids. And I'm just really glad that this bill, AB 3216, is in place to force these conversations in all of our school districts. And I see folks that are involved in that will be involved with those debates here on the Hill. And I look forward to those conversations. So lots happening in all of those spaces. I mean, we can go on and on about all sorts of bills that are making their way through. I'm sure Al will speak to them, to a number of other issues as well. And I'm obviously happy to look at the discussion that we're going to have with the moderator. But I do want to turn briefly to one of the big issues here on the Hill, which is, of course, the landslides. And I apologize for you're all so well dressed up. I'm in my landslide tour outfit today. Very hardy outfit I got on. But I want to thank Councilmember Wilson and some of the folks. I've had the chance to go visit the RPV site. In fact, Ari, you're looking, I would expect you to be in a constant kind of construction suit. That's too nice a suit, man. It's underneath okay, all right. Super Ara, good. Super manager. Well, anyway, we all know that while certainly the most severe situation is in the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, there's also a situation in the city of Rolling Hills, and I want to thank Councilmember Wilson for taking our team around to learn about the unique challenges there. And we're all working on, Congressman Schiff will be here next week to tour the site. We're trying to see if we can even get Senator Padilla to come. We're also working on the governor. I saw the governor's chief of staff just last week and trying to figure out getting him out, or at least some more senior folks from his office, just to see the site. I think to go matters. It's one thing to read the stories, I'm constantly. The LA Times provides me with constant fodder, and I take screenshots and send them to my colleagues who've been skeptical, quite frankly, of our efforts to try to provide more relief to the Hill, just for them to understand and recognize what a serious problem we have on our hands here. And some of you, I worked with a number of you on and with Al on SB 1487 that would sought to classify landslides as eligible for types of emergency relief funding. We wanted to expand it to include the California Disaster Assistance Act, and we've run into a surprising amount of pushback from folks up in Sacramento for reasons that I'm happy to get into in the discussion. And that bill did not make its way to the governor's desk. Unfortunately, we're looking at trying to revamp it in a way that will gain traction, and it's part of why we're all involved in such a concerted and effort to try to just keep banging the drum on this issue. As we're looking for alternatives. Okay, if they didn't like that model, what are some other alternatives that can provide some relief to those affected? So we've first established this PV landslide working group. It includes county, state, federal offices that represent the peninsula. We're all meeting regularly to coordinate efforts. We're in close contact, of course, with city officials to support their efforts and help advocate for resources. We met with the utilities companies to identify short and long-term solutions. I know Cal Water's here. I want to thank you guys for your responsiveness in many ways. We saw some of the good work actually underway today. Thank you. Thank you for helping. We've had a number of meetings with Cal OES Director Nancy Ward, some difficult meetings, very difficult meetings, to outline the availability and timeline of assistance. As I mentioned, we've been trying to get the governor to come down, and we may be making some progress on that, just to see the extent of the land movement himself. One of the things I was saying to Councilmember Wilson today is that it's not getting a guy like Adam Schiff to come. It's not about going through every single detail of the hydrology and the geology. It's about him internalizing and holding the situation in his heart, so that when he's obviously we don't know, but very likely to become the next U.S. senator, when he makes that phone call to the president, those memories, those experiences of walking that place will be top of mind and add to the passion and the commitment that he puts toward that advocacy for us. I also just want to, I know she's not here today, but I do want to give Supervisor Hahn a shout out for securing some really much needed county funding for dewatering wells and other landslide remediation efforts. And I want to thank her office that's here. So the good news, of course, and I know, Ara can speak to this, at least some of the remediation efforts that have been undertaken by the community seem to be making some improvements. The recent geologist reports, at least, of course, my understanding, they're showing that the rate of movement in portions of the landslide have decreased by as much as 60%. Of course, we haven't had massive rains recently, but that's certainly very, that's helpful news. But of course, we've got winter right around the corner, and we know we have to remain hyper vigilant regarding the landslide. So part of that involves making sure that the community knows how important it is for those of us in various levels of decision making, whether it's in government or on the utility side. We need folks to continue to report any new fissure or cracks that folks may notice in their neighborhoods or in their homes. We also want folks to continue to check the city's websites for the most up-to-date information about land movement in the area, also as a way to learn about resources and programs that might be available. I mean, I think, despite Mother Nature's best efforts, we know the community here is very resilient, and neighbors have been checking in on other neighbors. I know the Peninsula YMCA has opened its facilities to families impacted by the utility shutoffs. Many of the schools on the peninsula are offering before and after school childcare programs at no cost. I thank you for that. I mean, I'm as a dad of a 5-year-old kindergartner, I know how valuable that is and how important that is going to be for so many of our families. I know also, of course, the Ladera Linda Community Center has extended their hours of operation so that residents can come and recharge their devices and themselves. There have been community dinners in RPV on Wednesday evenings for residents to enjoy a hot meal and watch the Dodgers games and connect with community. So I'm certainly hoping to join one of those dinners soon. So let me just say our office continues to have an open door. I want to point out Eddie, who's here from our office, who's a wonderful public servant in his own right. We were going through this the other day. Our retreat's coming up. We kind of think the number of people that we've been able to help, folks, everything from pandemic assistance, unemployment insurance, to small business loans. I mean, people who call during very difficult moments in their lives, and we've got a really dedicated team that has assisted a lot of our fellow Angelinos, our fellow peninsulares, I guess here. As they navigate the challenges of life. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's anything we can do to assist you with anything involving the state government. So thank you, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Colleen and Meg, and thank you also to Eileen Hupp for always working so hard for all of you to put this wonderful event, this tradition together to bring all of us here on the peninsula to talk about what's happening in your state capital. Ben and I really work close together to fight for Palos Verdes and all the residents and communities here, and so it's really great to see all of you, especially all of the elected officials representing the 4 cities, as well as our wonderful library board here in Palos Verdes. Just a quick self-introduction for those that I haven't had the opportunity to meet. I've been a resident of Palos Verdes for a number of years. I've lived in the South Bay for almost 30 years, but mostly in Torrance for over 20. My wife and I, my Hiroko and I, we're raising our daughter Sophia here, attending Palos Verdes schools, and really appreciate, especially all the hard work of our school board and our superintendent, Dr. Serrano, for having, the rankings just came out, right? A niche ranking, Palos Verdes Unified has the second best school district in the South Bay. Redondo beat us out, but still, we know that our PV schools, is one of the main reasons why people move and live in the peninsula because of our schools. So speaking of schools, well, just a quick overview. I wanted to touch upon 3 topics before we open it up to what I expect to be a lively and interesting conversation. But education, public safety, and of course the landslides here in Palos Verdes. So first, public education. In terms of my self-introduction, this fall, while we're not in session, I'm teaching government at El Camino College. Any Elko Warriors here? Yeah, okay. Great experience, I really seeing how our community colleges, people talk about it being the people's college because, everyone can get in, everyone can attend our community colleges if you have the desire, if you take the initiative to do so. And so I'm really having a great experience, trying to bring the policy into practice in the classroom. This is the second time that I'm teaching. Earlier I had an opportunity to teach at UCLA, but this is a very different experience, one that I'm really enjoying. And whether we're talking about our Palos Verdes schools or whether we're talking about, our local community colleges or, our great University of California, our California State University, we know that the big reason why California is the innovation state and leads the country and the world in innovation is because of our educated workforce. And so, we need to continue. My top priority is to continue to invest in our public education systems, whether it's TK through 12, whether it's our community colleges, whether it's our public universities. We need to continue to invest not only in our kids, but in our workforce, because that's what keeps California competitive. That's what makes California the home of Silicon Valley, of companies that continue to lead the world in innovation. To that end, Ben mentioned that I'm focused on fixing our schools. And I know that is a top priority here in Palos Verdes. And as a parent of a PV Unified student, I really want to emphasize, to each and every one of you to support Measure SOS. Yeah. As the representative for the South Bay, I have the opportunity to see all of the school facilities throughout the South Bay. And as chair of the Education Committee, I get to visit schools in other parts of the state. Notwithstanding the hard work of Dr. Serrano and our school board members who are trying to fix the problem, I just want to say flat out that Palos Verdes schools are the worst school facilities in the South Bay. We have the situation that I know we discussed at a recent fundraiser for Measure SOS at Merrill-Est Intermediate School, right? Their electricity system is so outdated that their electrician won't even touch it because they're afraid of liability concerns. That the electric switchboard melted down, and they've had to those poor kids and the staff, they've had to use generators to keep the lights on. That's a shame. That's a shame for a community like Palos Verdes. We need to invest in our schools. We need to fix our schools. I know that Dr. Serrano and the school board are working hard to pass Measure SOS, and I hope each and every one of you vote to support Measure SOS. To support local efforts like Measure SOS, I was the lead author of Proposition 2, which is on your November ballot. Proposition 2 is a measure that will provide matching state dollars to local school districts without raising any new taxes. The way that statewide bond measures are paid for is through the general fund, and so I want to emphasize that we're trying to raise funds statewide to provide matching dollars to local school districts without raising any new taxes. So Measure SOS, Proposition 2 on the November ballot, that's how we can make a difference to fix our schools for our kids, for our communities. The realtors here, we all know, every realtor knows that on your flyer for your property, right? Yeah, is excellent public Palos Verdes School District. We need to make sure that we keep that reputation for all of us homeowners here on the peninsula. Moving on next to public safety. I am a former prosecutor, and I've been fighting to restore accountability in Sacramento for a number of years. 2 years ago, I worked with the California Association of Realtors on a bill to allow for the third retail theft offense to be charged as a felony, because I was hearing over and over again from law enforcement officers that people will be arrested and they'll just be released either on the spot or soon thereafter. There's no accountability, and that's what is driving a lot of what we're seeing in terms of these viral videos of the smash and grabs, of the organized retail theft. And so we need to restore some balance. And that's why, when I introduced my bill, but my bill was killed by my colleagues in the legislature. I told the California Retail Association that we're not going to be able to reform, amend Proposition 47 in this current legislature. You're going to have to go directly to the ballot. And so that's what they did. And that is what you'll see on the ballot is Proposition 36. Proposition 36 is proposing exactly what I proposed 2 years ago, to allow for the third retail theft offense to be charged as a felony. And that's why I'm supporting Proposition 36. And I hope you will consider supporting Proposition 36 to restore some balance and accountability to crack down on rampant retail theft. Last but not least, before we jump into our great conversation, is landslides. Senator Allen and I, we've honestly, we've been banging our heads on the wall because we've been trying to get, both of us have repeatedly asked the governor to come down, to show that you care, about the residents of Palos Verdes and what's happening, and we've met repeatedly with the director of the California Office of Emergency Services, and their basic response, Ben is too nice that he didn't go into the details, but their basic response is that this is a pre-existing condition. It's been happening since the 1950s, and basically people should have seen it coming. And for Ben and I, because we've been to these neighborhoods, we've walked with residents in Portuguese Bend and Seaview and Rolling Hills, and Rolling Hills Estates and Pear Tree Lane. Because we have met, with all of these, our neighbors, the residents, face to face, hearing. I remember the first incident in Pear Tree Lane, and there was that young family that just closed escrow a week or two before the landslide happened. I mean, it's when you meet these people, you can't just dismiss them. And I see Jennifer here representing Supervisor Hahn. I mean, let's give a round of applause to Supervisor Hahn Supervisor Hahn was able to deliver $5 million to assist the residents as well as the city of Rancho Palos Verdes. And Ben and I are thinking, God, we want to be able to deliver that same kind of aid. But that's the response that we've been getting. And I just wanted to be transparent about, where the governor's office has been at. And so we're going to continue to work. I've been, hounding the governor's chief of staff to try to get the governor to come down. In the meantime, this is a time where Ben and I are exploring legislative ideas for the next session when we reconvene in January. But two issues that I wanted to put out. I would love to hear any feedback, any thoughts about any legislative ideas that you may have. But one is, the unfortunate situation of people getting their power cut off with only like days' notice. I remember when I had my Palos Verdes town hall at Hess Park. On that Saturday morning, it was about a month or two ago, and just the night before, Edison notified the folks in the Portuguese Bend neighborhood that they were going to be getting their power cut off on that following Monday. And so, of course, that was probably one of the most contentious town halls I've ever had, because I had a lot of, as Mayor Cruikshank, Councilman Bradley, Councilman Seo, and of course, Ara, your city manager, we're there to see. I mean, that was like the beginning of the anger, and rightfully so. It's like if you're going to get your power cut off by this, utility that has a monopoly of providing power in our neighborhoods, then there should be some minimum notice given. Now I understand that there are safety issues. They're saying that they had to cut it off because they were afraid it was going to trigger wildfires, that power lines were going to snap and trigger wildfires. But I think there needs to be some kind of procedure where people are given minimum notice, or at least to be able to make a showing, like say in court, as to why to present the evidence, why they need to cut off that power, so that it at least provides greater transparency and accountability for the residents. We know that happened in Portuguese Bend. We don't know what neighborhoods might be next on the peninsula, and so I want to make sure that we address the issues of minimum notice by the utilities before they cut off power. The second is that issue that the governor raised about how this is supposed to be a pre-existing condition, and that it doesn't qualify for any aid because it was a pre-existing condition. We all, at least those of us that listen to scientists, we know that they're all saying the same thing. The scientists, the geologists, the cities, that it's before it was, we were talking about inches a year, but now we're talking about up to a foot a week in terms of movement, and what has triggered this dramatically accelerated land movement in the last, especially in this past year, has been the severe rainstorms. And so we know that these severe rainstorms, these severe weather conditions are being triggered by climate change. We know when we see those devastating storms in North Carolina and Florida, and we're seeing we're not getting hurricanes, but we know that the geologists and the scientists are saying that those severe rainstorms are triggering this massive land movement here in Palos Verdes. We need to redefine pre-existing condition. We need to acknowledge the realities of climate change, so that not only Palos Verdes but all of our communities throughout the state of California are going to be prepared for the increasing realities of climate change. would love to get your feedback on these and any other ideas, any suggestions you have, but look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
I want to thank the Palos Verdes Chamber for putting on this annual event, bringing together the entire peninsula, business, local elected officials, residents, neighbors. It's such a great event to bring everyone together to talk about the issues that we're concerned about on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. Yeah, I mean, nothing beats face-to-face, talking with neighbors, residents, hearing their concerns. I mean, obviously, one of the big topics today was the Palos Verdes landslides, and so we had a really good conversation about that and what we can do about it.
Seems like you're all working very hard to try to get something done there.
Yeah, no, it's I've been trying to get the governor to come down. It's been really frustrating, but I'm going to keep fighting for our PV residents, especially those that have been directly impacted by the landslides.
And that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Maria Sorreo, and we'll see you next time. And that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Maria Sorreo, and we'll see you next time.